Hey, are you ready for spring? I'm ready for spring. I jumped on Pinterest and I found these adorable spring mason jars, and I just knew I had to share them with you. You can find how to create these jars at Mason Jar Crafts. I will have that linked below. I am also including the prices of each item for this craft, and I'm going to include the total after I am finished. All right, let's start creating some spring to add to our homes.
For this project, I used a sponge paintbrush, a ball mason jar, and some paint. I used the color Escape, and it's by Americana, and it is a chalky paint. Doesn't that color just scream spring? I really like that color. So I take my sponge paintbrush and I dip it into the paint. I notice that the paint is pretty thick, so I have to be very careful not to get it all lumpy on the jar. I make sure to keep smoothing it out as I go. Notice that I am going to cover the entire jar. I'm even covering all the way up to the top lip and then all the way down to the very bottom of it. I'm making sure to tap the paint into the writing on the jar. Then I notice this is going to get pretty messy, so I grab some gloves and I put gloves on before I continue painting that jar. At this point, I am almost done, so I'm going through and just touching up any bumpy type spots of the paint where maybe have been too thick on the jar, or anywhere that I see where the jar is still peeking through a little bit. I'm just going through and getting those areas. I'm going to let the first coat dry. Now that the first coat is dry, I can see some of the spots on the jar peeking through, so I know I definitely want to go over it again with a second coat. I decided to go over the very top lip of the jar. It just looks better with that part painted too. Time to wait for the second coat to dry. I ended up letting this dry overnight just to be on the safe side. Now you take some sandpaper. I used 400 grit sandpaper. And then you are going to sand over all of the writings, the bumps that are on your jar. This makes it look weathered. And also I went over the top of the mason jar too, where the lines are. Anything that will bring out a little bit of that weathered look. I also sanded a little bit of the sides here and there, just to add a little more of that weathered look to the mason jar. Make sure you get the back of the jar too. You want the front, the back and the sides to be sanded lightly. This is what mine looked like when I got done. Time to put the gloves on again. We are going to paint some daisies on this jar. So I am taking some white enamel paint. I put a little dab of it on a paper plate. I really like these paintbrushes for this job. Take the jar. You're going to dip just a little bit of the paint into it. I put a dot, and then that's my center to start the petals to the flowers. Now I am going to paint on 6 petals per flower. I am going to continue painting the flowers all over the jar. Now that I have finished painting the flowers all over the jar, I'm going to let them dry completely. We are taking the yellow paint and doing the same with what we did with the white paint on the paper plate, just a little bit. Now we are creating the middle parts of the flowers with the yellow paint. And I'm going to continue to do this on every single flower all over the jar. This is the completed look. I really love how this jar turned out. I added some daisies to it to go with the daisies on the jar. Here it is with a battery-operated candle inside. I liked this jar so much, I made 2. I couldn't help myself. This is the perfect touch of spring that we needed in our home. I hope you are encouraged to make one of these to add to your spring decor in your home. Have a wonderful day. I will talk to you soon.